I've written one book, 40 Codorus Street, Book One, Surviving Unpredictabilities. I think the book is released in October 2020. And what I wanted my listeners and my readers to know is that the book is for anybody on any street in the world who has been through what I've been through. This is going to be generational history that I think my children will be able to share over and over again. I think my main audience is anyone who's a teen, has been a teen mother on up to whatever age. There are many grandparents raising their children now, raising their grandchildren now. There are many people out there thinking that they cannot make it. I'm here to tell you that you can. I have never had to raise any of my children's children. I mean, I'm fortunate about that. I think the right person to write this book is me because I actually lived this life that I write in 40 Codorus Street. I came up with the idea of talking about my life from the beginning of my life, and that's where it started at. The process of writing this book was like a little shaky. I mean, I've been wanting to write a book for a long time. I've told so many stories over my life to different people, children, family, friends, siblings, and they would get a kick out of the laugh, or sometimes they'd cry about some of the stories I told them. And almost everybody in that crowd and that audience would say, Sandra, you need to write a book. So for years and years and years, I said I was going to write a book. It was getting close to my 70th birthday, maybe 6 months out, and I was working part-time. And I decided that I was going to quit on my 70th birthday and start writing the book. Well, June the 14th, 2 years ago, was a Friday, and I quit work. But I didn't start writing the book. I got lazy. I had fun in the summer. I did nothing. And then my sister, my god sister, Portia Owens, met a young lady who is a business strategist. Her name is Coretta-Doctor. She introduced her to me and told her that I wanted to write a book. And Coretta called me and we talked. Excuse me, let me get some tea. Excuse me for a minute. Hopefully you have your cup of tea with you and you're enjoying this as much as I am. I met Miss Doctor and she called me one day and she said, so you want to write a book? I said, I do. So the rest is history. I hired her and she works with me for a year or so, getting the book out. And eventually the book was all done and it's on the market. It was only part of my story. It was an introduction of who Sandra was. It was just an introduction of where I was coming from and what I was. I subsequently finished that book, as I stated, and I wrote book two, 480 Codorus Street, Trials and Tribulations. Things just continue to pop up in my life that I have to work with and get over. And trust me, you think life gets easier as your children go up? Life gets harder as your children go up. And your children are adults and out the door, things still come back to grab you. And you have to have your roller skates on and be ready to go with whatever direction they're going in, because that's how it is. Both of my books are live on Amazon right now as we speak. Surviving Unpredictabilities and Trials and Tribulations. I'm going to read a dedication from my book that I put in the first book. This book is dedicated to all the women and men, with or without children, trying to survive life as we know it in the world today. Giving a special shout out to the following persons: my sister Mary Elizabeth Smallwood Richardson, my sister Mabel Lee Reed, my sister Dorothy Mae Smallwood Stewart, rest in peace, my sister Virginia Smallwood Mitchell, my sister Benita Faith Smallwood Swine, my brother Clifford Earl Bucky Smallwood, rest in peace, my brother, my daughter Kimmy Jo, my son Kevin Scott Kearse Sr., my daughter Carmentina Chevelle Kearse, my son Keenan Wynn Kearse Sr., rest in peace, my son, and my niece Tracy Smallwood. A shout out also to a host of grandchildren, great-grandchildren, foster children. My husband and I have fostered over 100 children in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. Nephews, nieces, aunts, uncles, friends, and colleagues, I appreciate you. This poem I'm about to read to you, excuse me, let me get a little tea. This poem I'm about to read to you is called Abundant Living. It's an anonymous author from the book of Shared Treasures, compiled by Rosalind J. Young. To all of you, think deeply, speak gently, laugh often, work hard, give freely, pay promptly, pray earnestly, and be kind to others and yourself always. The foreword in the first book is written by Colonel Sharon Singleton, retired full-blown colonel in U.S. Army. In 1999, I transferred to the U.S. Army Reserve Hospital located at Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington, D.C. It was there that I met Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Stockton. She was quite engaging as we chatted about our lives, families, children, careers, etc. We were both lieutenant colonels and connected easily. I found her to be very smart and strong. I remember feeling shocked when she mentioned that she had lost two close family members in a house fire just years before. Her eyes welled with tears that streamed down her face. I was stunned by the I apologize. I was stunned by the enormity of her loss and thrown off to see this strong officer present with a vulnerable side. And although I offered condolences and support, I felt inadequate at best. I felt a bind with her for trusting and sharing that part of her life with me so readily. I have no problem sharing my life with anyone if they ask me questions. If it's something that can help somebody, then I'm willing to sit down and talk with them and explain to them. And if there's any time in my life or any part of my life that I can share that would help somebody to understand and accept their life, then I'm willing to do that. Let me continue with a little bit of the introduction from my first book. Introduction. Everything that you hear me say in this video is from my memories, from my perspective only. Although my siblings have experienced many of the same things that I have experienced, their perspective might be very different from mine. We were all cut from the same cloth, but all very different. With that, allow me to introduce you to my family and me. Welcome to the life of Sandra Lee Smallwood. I was born June 14th, 1949 at York Hospital, York, Pennsylvania, at 2:50 in the morning on Flag Day. My nickname is Lou, given to me later on by Mom. Dot is my mom Dot. It was a windy, cloudy day with temperatures of 77 degrees Fahrenheit. My parents, Dorothy Mae Jackson Smallwood, Dot, and William Jr. Smallwood, were adding me to their family of three. I had an older sister already at home. Mary Elizabeth was 18 months older than I. Dot and I had to stay in the hospital for 3 days since that was the hospital policy. In the early days, we called our parents by their first name. We never questioned it. It was just our way of life. It allowed time for the two of us to become acquainted. One could say it was the beginning of an unbreakable bond between Dot and me. They say that we choose our parents before birth. I certainly chose Dot. I've always felt close to her and imagined the bonding started in the hospital bed, which eventually led to us being lifelong friends. It was soon time for Dot and William to take me home to meet Mary Elizabeth. Our home at 40 Codorus Street was beautiful, red brick detached home with a large concrete front porch. We walked through the vestibule to get to the inside of the rest of the house, followed by the living room. It was enormous and open, with huge front windows that faced the street. The next room was the dining room, with a small pot-belly closed stove, a dining room table and 6 chairs, and a china cabinet, with lots of pretty trinkets and glass dishes. There was also a sizable tall window in the left corner of the room. That window gave a view to the concrete side of the gigantic backyard. The kitchen was enormous, with a big wooden stove and a big table. It looked like an army could fit at the table. We also had a very large coal and wood-burning stove and a fridge that had to have dry ice inside to keep food cold. At the back of the house, there was a spacious wooden back porch with railings around it. There was also a small closed-in corner outhouse. The outhouse had a toilet that flushed. There was no heat in that room and no running hot water, only cold water. Therefore, in the winter, you did not want to stay in there too long. It was dark. One would have to feel around for the string coming from the ceiling to pull it on to get the light on. It was crazy in there, and at any given moment, a rat could show up. To get to the yard, we had to walk down a few steps from the porch. Our backyard was spacious, with a big tree that our dog's chain wrapped around to tether her. Our dog's name was Rex. To tether him, I apologize. My spirit was already in that house. I could feel that I had visited there before my birth. William and Doc continued to add to the family. William was always hoping for a boy, but girls just kept on coming. Mabel Lee, no nickname, came to join us on July of 1950. Dorothy May joined us in July of 1951. Virginia joined us in 1952. Bonita Faith came aboard in June 1954, nicknamed Nene. And finally, a little brother in September 1955, Clifford Earl, named Bucky. Mary had no nickname. By the way, Dot gave me my nickname because it reminded her of the cartoon little girl on television, Little Lulu. She said I was always getting into something like her. Now I will read the first chapter on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed my reading. See you soon. Bye.